Right now in Australia, the majority of our population is avoiding the news. 72% of women and 67% of men are actively taking steps to avoid it. That means no 6:30 p.m. TV news, no newspapers in the morning, no listening to news on the radio on the car drive to work, no scrolling through news.com.au. The vast majority of Australians want nothing to do with the news. The story is even more pronounced with young people. Not only are they barely in the double digits when it comes to news consumption on television, radio, or print, but nearly half of them aren't even getting their news from news websites. In fact, 46% of them are getting their news from social media. And the number one source of news for those under 25 years old? TikTok. If you need any further evidence that news is changing, consider that 52% of those over 75 years old read newspapers or print magazines to get their news. Yet in those under 25, it's just 7%. But at a recent conference I presented these results to, the response from some attendees was that this is okay. Those kids would grow up and age into the nightly news or the top of the hour radio bulletin or good old newsprint. Except they're not. TikTok users are aging out of the platform, sure. From about 25 years on, they tend to age out, but not to magazines or tuning into the Sunrise or Today shows. They're aging into Instagram. And when they start aging out of Instagram, they're aging into Facebook and podcasts and YouTube. News is changing, but the resistance to that change from those who are creating and presenting it is really strong. News Corporation would rather spend tens of millions of dollars on fighting new technologies and distribution methods in court than spend that same amount in developing new ways to reach the audience who they're not reaching now. Aging local news professionals would rather throw their hands in the air and declare that they're old school and can't change their ways, rather than mentoring a new generation of media professionals who have never known a world without social media. Yet this is exactly what is needed most now. There is no shortage of interest in journalism when it comes to students studying it at university. Yet there are few, if any, jobs available for it. So these trained and highly skilled new world journalists have two choices. Either be a social media person at an established news organization and try to change the industry from within, or start their own news organizations through podcasts and social media profiles and their own websites. But even if they do choose to start their own newsroom, there's still something missing. Great journalists almost never got there on their own. They started off as cadets or juniors and were mentored through to becoming the great writers and presenters that they are today. So if they're not being mentored by today's great news professionals, what happens? They chase algorithms to get views. They present news that appeals to that algorithm. And only the most outrageous anger bait makes it to the top. Just like we're seeing on news.com.au every day now. If we don't help guide tomorrow's newsmakers, I can guarantee you that TikTok, Meta, and LinkedIn will. I'm Dante St. James.